Hello everybody, this is Goofs and Fox coming at you with a 450 cost rated match here in the Gundam CD, which for the rest of this video I'll be referring to as the Casval Gundam since, that's the name that the suit gets on all the model kits and also just the name that I'm more familiar with, so I feel like I'm less likely to mess it up if I just call it the Casval Gundam. But, we're going to be on Arctic base for this match, and this is going to be an ace match. And the Casval Gundam here really came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was expecting us to get this suit during the same update as the Hazel Owsla gigantic arm unit, but it is here, and it came in its own special banner, too. A step up that had 4 steps, and if you do the 4th step, you will get this unit guaranteed. And that banner there is going to be something that I revisit later on in the video here. But for starters, just going to start off with the usual, do a quick rundown of the specs and weapons here that the suit has, kind of go over its standout features, and I really want to answer the question of if I think this suit is worth it as part of its banner, because, again, this banner really came out of nowhere, so, even though I'm releasing this later on a Sunday, hopefully it does answer some questions if anybody was considering it, but yeah, without further ado, we'll talk about the Casval Gundam here, which is a 450 cost general unit, and yeah, it's pretty similar to the basic RX-78-2, though you do actually get more mobility than the RX-78-2, but really at the trade-off of having no range strength. Which is why you're going to see at some points my weapons, or at least my range weapons, they do some pretty mediocre damage, and that's because of that 0 range strength there, and I did not do anything for this build to enhance its range, so what you see with the range damage is what you're going to be getting with this suit. But going into the weapons here, you do have a beam rifle that is, exclusive to this unit. If you do an uncharged shot, you get an instant stun, and if you do a charged shot, you will get a piercing shot. You also have a beam saber as your main melee weapon. Again, it is a beam saber that is exclusive to this unit, but it does have the same Federation melee pattern as the base Gundam, so, going to be a familiar melee pattern there. You also have a pair of head Vulcans, which have a somewhat alright stagger accumulation. It's definitely not the best by any means, but I do believe its accumulation value is better than most pairs of head Vulcans, at least when it comes to older pairs of head Vulcans. So I would say this is a bit more of a middle ground in terms of that department, but aside from that, they do the pretty basic Vulcan thing, so nothing too special to say there. You also have a Hyper Bazooka as a sub-weapon. You have 5 rounds with the bazooka, and it is a pretty standard bazooka in terms of operation. You fire it, you fire a rocket, you get your instant stun. Maybe you go for a melee, or you follow up with the beam rifle. Bada bang, bada boom, you got yourself a little bit of a combo there. So, again, pretty standard bazooka, but something that is nice to have with this suit. Again, not going to be doing the most range damage with it because of the low range damage that the suit already has, but really it is more for stunning at that point. You also have a second melee weapon, that being the blow melee, and this is what gives this suit the Char kick, which is actually the same kick animation that we used on the recent White Gundam. So in 2 weeks we already have 2 suits that are using this kick animation, which means I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting a Char Zaku that also uses this animation. But I believe the neutral and the side swing animations for the kick are the same as the narrative Gundam. That is what I've heard, at least. I have not done a side-by-side comparison, but I do believe that is where they come from, which is, again, pretty cool to have. And since you do have melee combo controller with the suit, you are able to do 2 melee swings with both the saber and the kick. And then you also have a shield for defensive purposes. Pretty standard shield, nothing too major going on there. But yeah, that's going to take us to the skills here, and I did mention the shield, and one of the things I want to bring up is that you don't have shield break stance mastery like the RX-72 got in its most recent buff, so just something I thought I'd point out there. But for the standout skills that you do have emergency evasion system level 2, so you do have a double dodge roll. You also have a melee combo controller, as I mentioned earlier, and that applies for both the beam saber and the kick. And then you have EX Boost level 2, where if you touch the touchpad, you will get a few seconds of extra boost there. Really kind of unlimited boost until the timer runs out. And the timer will go down quicker if you do things like a tackle or a dodge roll, so that is something to keep in mind. But I do believe you get like 15 seconds of boost, so yeah, a pretty good skill to have for the Casval Gundam here. And the other skills are pretty standard, I think general skills. I don't think there's anything else with this suit that is too much of a standout with the skill list, so that's going to be the parts of the skills I cover there. I do have a testing video of the suit if you want to see the rest of the suit skills, especially since as of recording, I don't think this suit has a wiki page yet, so there's not really a way to check this suit out unless you actually go into the game itself, unfortunately, but yeah, again, I do have a testing video up if you want to look further into that, but this is the point where, you know, we're hitting the 2-minute mark on the match. This is the point where I'll start going over the aspects I mentioned earlier, and just kind of a quick refresh. I mentioned that this suit is part of a 4-step banner, where you get the suit guaranteed on the 4th pool. That is how I was able to get this suit. I did do the full step-up banner, and really the question here is just, is it worth doing that step-up if you want this suit guaranteed? And I think the answer to that is that it really depends on the player. The Casval Gundam here is a really good general. It's not like anything like overpowered or anything, but it is, I think, a pretty strong contender for a good 450 general. It's really a more aggressive version of the RX-78-2 in terms of your melee, since you really want to do the melee combo with the beam saber and the kick, you know, get the stuns with your weapons, since, again, your ranged weapons are not going to be doing a lot of damage. As you can see, 950 there on the Jetta. Pretty poor damage there, but I think if you're the average player, I don't think the step up is worth it. I think, you know, if you have like the original RX-78-2, that's been pretty good since they buffed it. So if you really want an RX-78-2 to use, you do have that one, and 450 just also has a bunch of other good generals to use. But if you either really like the Casval Gundam, which is the reason I really wanted the suit, I really like the Casval Gundam, so that's why I aim to get it. If you like the Casval Gundam, or if you think this suit looks like a suit that you would like to play, and like you just feel like you have to have it, that's really the conditions I would say are the best for getting it. It really, I feel like it's like a suit you want to get if it's a suit you really want or a fan of, things like that. I think those are the conditions in which you'd want to get this suit. And before I wrap up here, we'll take a look at the stats here with Casval, see how we did. Mission completed, we got some good works in the side there. And yeah, did get top in individual and top in damage. And first place with 6 kills and 1 loss. Second place in damage. So yeah, pretty good match there with the Casval Gundam, but yeah, going back to what I was saying, I'm kind of going over the time limit here. Yeah, again, I think this suit is really only worth it if, again, if it's a suit you really want or it's a suit you are a fan of. Again, 450 already has some really good generals, some really good melee-based generals, so if you already have some of the suits like that, I don't really see a reason for why you would need to get this suit. Aside from that, just some other small things I want to mention with the Casval. As I said earlier, you know, I think it's a pretty good general in its own right. I don't think it's better than the base RX-78-2. Actually, I think both of them are pretty equal in terms of performance. Again, really just with the Casval being a more melee-based version of the RX-78-2, and I forgot to mention this too with the Casval Gundam, you don't have melee priority 3 like the OG Gundam has, so that is something you want to watch out for when you're doing your melee attacks, because that means, you know, like the original RX-72 or a bunch of raids will be able to overpower you, or, you know, you'll clash with most generals, so that's something I forgot to mention further back, but little extra something to mention there. But yeah, that's really all I have to say for the Casval Gundam here. again, I'm really glad that it did get in the game. I mainly wanted to focus this on if, depending on who the player is, if you should get it. As I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned it's the first Skyrim's Greed suit, so hopefully this means we'll be getting suits like the Gian Krieger and the Prototype Gundam Mark II. But yeah, I'm going over the time now, so I'll end the video here. Comment down below what you think about the Casval Gundam. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Later.